Good evening. We're here tonight with top Atlanta visual artist, mental health advocate, and community leader, Miss ArtzyBella. Let's get Miss ArtzyBella up in the room so we can see what's going on. Hope everybody's having a good week. I know I am. Friday.
Okay, here we go. We're back.
Hey, Candy. Candy in the building.
Oh, my sister's here.
Yeah. So, for those that are just joining, we're here with Atlanta visual artist, community activist, mental health advocate, and entrepreneur, Miss ArtzyBella. Ashley,
Yes.
For those that weren't here, where are you from?
I'm from Atlanta. I'm from the south side of Atlanta. I was born in College Park and raised in Southwest Atlanta off Campbellton Road. I'm homegrown.
Ashley, let me ask you this. You know I got to ask you this.
Okay.
What was it like growing up from such a hotbed of creativity? I mean, you got Dungeon Family.
Yeah.
For the Atlanta people before that, Kilo.
Yeah.
You had Escape. You even had of course Jermaine Dupri, Kid, Chris Cross, Ghost Town DJs. I mean, what's up?
It was magical. I don't think we will ever see Atlanta be the way it once was. Atlanta was very family oriented. It was very chill. People were friendly. Like you could literally, like on the weekend, we could just ride down the street. Of course, you're always hearing music. Music is just in everything, everywhere you go. Whether you go inside somebody's shop or business, or you're just riding down the street, you always hear a lot of music. But you could just pull up on people and they might be barbecuing, hanging out, red cups, music, and just relaxing. And usually if you didn't know the people, you had a cousin or you knew somebody who knew somebody. And we really supported our musicians. They were very much, they didn't feel like, I don't know if you've heard this in Atlanta, we don't get excited about celebrities. If we see somebody famous, they're just regular people to us. We don't get excited. But that's because our celebrities, even the A-listers, whenever they were around, they were just normal people. We all interacted with each other just like we grown up together. And Atlanta was, we had those events, those annual events that everybody looked forward to. Freaknik, the festivals, but everything was centered around music. The music kind of just pushed everything. And Atlanta's always been a hustle city. It's always been the kind of place where you can make something out of nothing. If you can come up with a good idea and you can get out and hustle, you can usually make it. Now, people have gone left with it now that all these out-of-towners are moving here.
Yeah.
Turn our hustle culture into something else. But Atlanta's always been that place where you could really just get out here and make something shake, and people would really support it too, for sure.
Lord have mercy. Ashley, I usually do interviews in a linear fashion, but I see with you, we're going to have to meander a bit.
That's
because our lives have intersected. I was in Atlanta pre-Olympics.
Okay.
I left after the Olympics, and when I came back, it just was
totally different.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and just breaking it down to the sociology of it, back then the average person you would meet on the street would be from Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas clearly that's not the case anymore, myself included.
Now we're very rare. I meet somebody and they're like, "You're really from Atlanta? For real, it's from Atlanta?" And that's when I realized that so many people that weren't from here had moved here.
Mm-hmm.
Rare to meet. But I know plenty of people from here because we all hang together. We don't like talking to people from out of town. We don't.
Yeah.
Because the energy is different. We still kind of, every fiber of our being is still very old Atlanta, that old Atlanta vibe.
Yeah.
So we kind of hang out with each other and avoid the out of towners.
No doubt. Hey, listen, I'm thinking we do some one word association.
Okay.
The Beautiful.
Ooh, good soul food.
559.
Ah, it's a club.
Montrese.
Mantra. Oh, wow. That's some of the best kept things in Atlanta that aren't here anymore that like we'll never experience again for sure.
That's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So, if you're just joining, we're here with ArtzyBella. Ashley, where we left off was we were discussing your time as an undergraduate student at Georgia State,
Yeah.
majoring in art.
And
Tell
my
us,
business.
tell us, tell the people. I see there's some new people in here. For the people that are just joining, give us a brief synopsis of your undergraduate experience and what decision you made.
Okay, so I went to undergrad, I went to college on a whim, didn't want to go, majored in art, changed my major a whole lot because everybody kept telling me that art wasn't going to make me any money. So I started doing a lot of business classes because I know entrepreneurship, I know math, I know I can do something with this. But because I didn't get support from people, and I had a complex with people telling me what to do, authority, I guess. I had my favorite class, an art history class. My teacher failed a paper that I had spent a lot of time writing. And
Mm.
I just don't like wasting my time and my energy. And I just said, forget it. I didn't say those words. It was another words, but
Yeah, yeah.
right, forget it. If I can put all this energy into something and somebody not see the value of it, I might as well just go do something on my own. So I dropped out of school. And then at that time, I was working full time at a design studio. And I had just started going to church. So I was volunteering at churches, and somehow I ended up working with a lot of young girls. And the girls really gravitated to me. So I became a mentor for a lot of teenage girls in my early 20s, and worked with several young ladies who had some real life, real things going on in their homes. At the young age of 11 and 12, these girls were dealing with some very adult situations. One of the young ladies was being abused by an older brother, and she had tried to tell her mom and her grandma about it, but they wouldn't listen. And it had happened to them also. And so there was just this generational normalizing of something that she couldn't get any help with. And that was my introduction into how big mental health is in our community. And just,
Yeah.
it made me realize that, thinking back to being in high school, that there were a lot of kids that we went to school with that we might have thought were angry, acting out. We may have thought they were weird. And really, they probably had a lot of stuff going on in their homes, and they had a lot of mental health issues, whether it was trauma, PTSD, depression, or, bipolar, any of those things. And we were misunderstanding these kids because we weren't aware of what they were going through. And so after working with those young ladies, I decided I was going to work in mental health. I really wanted to pour into people because I had my own childhood traumas, and but I had a village. I had my friends' parents. My mom just worked a lot. Her biggest focus was making sure that she got these two pretty young ladies through school with no kids, no pregnancies, no addictions or anything like that, that we didn't fall victim to a lot of the stuff we were around. And so a lot of my friends' parents stepped in, but I'm realizing there are a lot of children who didn't have that. And so I wanted to be that support for families and kids, and started my journey in mental health, started assisting therapists with their clients by just making sure that whatever treatment plans that they were coming up with, that they were actually doing it, just kind of being that extra pair of hands. And then, I learned that if I want to do anything significant, I got to go back to school and get a degree.
Right, right.
So I went back to school. I didn't change my major to counseling because then it's like now I'm changing it to 8 majors. So I was like, let me just get out of undergrad. So let me finish out this degree. So I had some more fine art classes and business classes to finish. But while I was finishing my fine art classes, I took a couple of psychology classes and learned about this thing called art therapy. And so I started kind of creating this trajectory of what does it take for me to become an art therapist one day later. And so I took a few more art classes, a few more psychology classes, and then I went and got my master's in child developmental psychology because I had this passion for working with children. So I, yes. Yeah.
I didn't. How you find the time to do all this stuff? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know. I'm still asking myself that today. I think that I, I don't know. I just, you know what it is? One of the things that'll always get me to do something is people telling me that like I can't do it. I like have to do them wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when someone said like you can't build a career as an artist, I had to do it. When someone said like you don't know anything about entrepreneurship, I had to prove them wrong. And so when they said that like, you know, you have to get all these degrees, it's going to take so much time for you to go to grad school and do this and that, I had to do it. So, and I had to show people that I can go to grad school and I can work a full-time job and still volunteer in my community and still be normal and sane, right? So I just figured it out. You know, I think that that's how my brain has always worked. And just watching my mom was a hustler. Both my parents was hustlers, but I was with my mom more, and I just saw her work a job. She had 3 hustles. She took care of us. She went to school at night. So it's really like doing the most is really all I knew or still know today. Now I'm a little more healthy now that, you know, I know how much it's important to have balance and stuff. But
Yeah, absolutely. During your time working with young kids and young women that have had significant trauma, what has been your biggest victory?
wow. What I'm doing right now, because after I stopped working with different therapists, I started working in the sex trafficking issue. I was always a big advocate for it. I had started a nonprofit. If I add another thing to the list of things I did, I started a nonprofit to raise awareness about human trafficking back in my early 20s. And when I involved that, I said, you know, maybe instead of me trying to like have this organization just so I can say I have a nonprofit, right? I was like, let me give my energy to someone who's already doing the work and doing it well and just contribute to that. So I started local organizations who were providing direct care to girls and women who had been identified as being sexually exploited. And so I did that work for about 6 years. And during that time, I'm still doing this research on this art therapy thing. And the places I worked were giving me opportunities to try it out with the women and the girls that I was working with. And we found that using art therapeutically was probably one of the only things that actually got through to them, more so than reading the Bible and praying and doing these group kumbayas, because art became very individualized and personal. And it was a non-abrasive way for them to talk about the things that they were going through. So it became a safe outlet. But then also we were able to look at a lot of the work and interpret meaning with them, along with them, by looking at their work and saying, you know, why do you think you may have used this color or depicted this way or put these things together? And it became a healthy distraction because, you know, I'm dealing with like teenage girls, like young girls and adult women who are on like heavy drugs like meth, heroin, crack. I mean, they're coming to me after just leaving a detox facility. So they don't want to hear about Jesus. They barely want to eat. You know, a lot of them have children that have been taken away from them. And so they were in crisis. But art became one of the only things that would actually distract them from everything that they were having to sort through. And the women, you know, they got to see me make some art because I had to do it with them. And then they were like, well, you're encouraging us to do all this art, but you're not doing anything with your own talent. And that's kind of like crazy. It's kind of hypocritical. They're very blunt with me, you know? And it made me realize that, you know, I had a gift that it was always it was always in the back of my mind that I wasn't operating in my gift. I wasn't using my talent. Like, definitely have a heart to serve, always moving up fast in leadership in whatever industry I was working in. But my gift wasn't being used, and I just always felt a little uncomfortable. And it made me realize I needed to stop wasting that, because working with women who are dealing with, I've heard probably 400 or 500 stories, because I would have to interview each woman that came through our doors about the different ways that they ended up in the life.
Yeah.
And we've lost some of them. Some of them are not with us today. Some of them have lost people close to them. And when you work with women who are in that kind of crisis and they're going through those kind of things, it reminds you of your mortality, that we're not here forever, and that all of us are really like one bad decision or situation away from being in some of the same shoes that they were. And so to have freedom to kind of do whatever I want, to have the safety of a job and an income and a village and a support and a family, unlike what they had, it's almost like a waste of those blessings if I don't utilize those things to do something with my gift. And so they pressured me and made me feel guilty and made me realize that I needed to do something with it. So I said, I also realized that one of their biggest issues was not having any money. So I said, look, if you guys keep making art, I'm going to find a way to sell this work for y'all so that you guys can make money. And I said, I'm going to find an art studio. You guys can hang your artwork up. We'll do art shows. You guys sell your work. This was the whole original vision.
That's dope.
Yeah. And
can I tell you that's dope? Dope. Yeah.
And so I spent several years looking for a studio. And that was my last job, was working with those women. And I quit my job, $50 left in my name, and said, I'm going to figure out how to open this studio so that I can become the artist that I want to be, start a business, and help these women get on their feet. And that was how ArtzyBella was birthed. And so here we are today. It has evolved into something that has taken on a life of its own. It outgrew any vision that I had. And now that the company has grown by leaps and bounds, my brand as an artist has grown by leaps and bounds. And now that I have staff, I have a team, things are more stabilized. Now I can get back to that original vision of creating a program to help these women learn a creative skill so that they can make money, reducing their risk of needing some of the things that they were vulnerable to before. So that's kind of.
Okay. So to wrap it all up in a bow, Ashley, what year did you start ArtzyBella, and when?
Came up with the name back in 2014. Probably sold my first piece of art in 2015. And then incorporated the company in 2017 and opened our studio in 2019.
Okay. And your studio is not in Las Vegas. It's not in New York. It's not up in Roswell. It's not in Johns Creek. Where is it, Ashley?
It's on the south side. It's on the south side in Atlanta, in East Point, in the SWATs. It's in my neighborhood. It's where I grew up. I always said, if I get a chance, unlike everybody's telling me, you can't make money doing this, you can't build a business, blah, blah, blah. When I said, if I get a chance to open a brick and mortar, I'm putting it in my neighborhood, because I want to be what I wish I would have had as a creative kid growing up. And a lot of my homeboys who are not here today because they were creatives who didn't have an outlet, so they ended up doing other stuff. I want to try to be that thing that I wish we all had. And so that's where we're at. 2621 Church Street.
That's so dope. That's so dope. And I tell you, man, I was looking at one of your reels, and you I mean, doing my research, looking at the art and stuff, and
yeah.
But you had one with a really powerful, who I assume was TD Jakes,
yeah.
speaking. about being yourself and being who you are,
Yeah.
etc. And when you were just telling me about the people that were telling you what you can't do, my question to you is, why folk always go out their way to tell you what you can't do?
Ooh,
When last time somebody came up to you and was like, you know what, this is what you can do. You can be great. You can open them. And has that ever happened to you? Just somebody randomly just come up like that?
I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna answer both your questions. I'm gonna answer the second question first. Everybody around me is like that. I do not have anybody in my life, from family to friends. When I do date, I don't allow anybody in my life who's not telling me. Now, I need people that's gonna be honest with me. You know what I'm saying, and tell me the truth. But I don't surround myself with anybody who doubts anything that I'm doing. And that's critical because there are a lot of very lonely moments in entrepreneurship. And it's hard. This is hard. Like, people think this stuff is so glamorous. People always, they come up with these great ideas and then they go rush to social media just so they can say, I'm a CEO, I own a company, not knowing that this is really hard. And you need to have people when you're doubting yourself, when you're like, I think I quit every other day. I'm like, forget this. I'm going to go back to work.
Right.
But you need people who are going to remind me you can do it. You're more than capable. Remember that last thing you did? And that is very critical, the kind of people who are in your ear when you're building. So I don't play that. I do not allow doubting people around me. But I think the reason why people do that is, I think people, I always hear somebody say this quote of, people can only give you what they have. And people are limited by what they believe in their own minds. So a lot of times what people are doing is projecting their own fears, their own doubt, their own disappointment on you.
That's
And
right.
I wish that we all could take a class as children to learn that that's something you have to pay attention to, is just because someone says it and says it with conviction does not mean that it's true or that there's facts behind it.
So
You
right.
have to check the source and the mindset,
Yeah.
the environment, all of the context that went into this idea that they have, because that could be full of shit. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to, you really have to be careful with that. Think about, I know so many creatives who come to my business as customers, and half of them tell me, I was an artist growing up. I was like that art kid in school. I used to do this all the time. I used to draw. And it's always, I used to do it.
Yeah.
Because when they got 17, 18, and everybody started saying, nah, you can't do anything with that, they went and changed their majors. They went
Yeah.
into careers. You have a lot of really creative people who are doing everything else other than what their talent and their gift is.
And that's been the rule rather than the exception, because I know so many as well. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because and that's one of the reasons I like to have one of these conversations, because the humanities and arts are devalued anyway. We
Yeah.
know that, right? And yet, the irony for me in all of it, Ashley, is that as devalued as society makes the humanities relative to making a living, it's
Mm-hmm.
completely the opposite when it comes to feeding your soul.
Yes.
Right? Like when your emotional state is treated by the music, influenced and or treated
For
by the
sure.
music you listen to.
Sure.
And that is many people's predominant source of comfort besides their religion.
For sure.
But they wouldn't want their kids to.
Yeah. I always think about, it's back in that art history classes. I always looked at the impact that how our world has evolved, how that has had on the arts. And I would like to argue, and I'm not sure, but one of my theories around why humanities and arts have been so devalued in this country is, when you think about after the Industrial Revolution, America became a very capitalist society. Money, 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 money. And they
Yeah.
needed workers. They needed people to work. They didn't need people out here dreaming and painting and making music. They needed people to work in factories to build these cars, to find this oil, to make other people rich. And even our education system is focused on the things that it's going to take to make sure that you can go and work in somebody's job. And the arts didn't really make the money. It wasn't what made the money that really built this country. But what happens when you have things like a pandemic, and the world shuts down, nature and the arts is what everybody runs back to, because of those are the things, like you said, that feed our soul, that help us get more connected with the earth and with each other and with ourselves. And sometimes our jobs just can't do that. And so, I love to hear when people understand just how powerful the arts is, and not even just to entertain people and make them feel good, but we can't record history without arts. It helps us hundreds of years later. We're going to look back, and the arts is a lot of those things that's going to stand behind to tell people what it was like being alive at this time. We really help move the world forward. And I hope to see the rest of America catch on to that for sure.
No, that's for sure. And that's very well said. I mean, because myself as well, when COVID hit, you had the luxury of time. And without having to think about going somewhere, you were able to look inward.
Yeah.
And so you would go pick up that book that you had been wanting to read.
Yeah.
That garden, which is what we did.
Wow.
Planted the garden. You know what I'm saying? But also it goes back to, I mean, you're talking historically, man, like they often talked about back in antiquity, they used to have salons where people would just come and exchange ideas.
Yes.
Yeah. Just imagine if there was salon. That's what I imagine, Ashley. Us looking at a big salon.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? Where you could go and exchange ideas and be amongst people that are trying to push things forward.
What's interesting is that I see evidence of that in Atlanta right now. I do know traditionally, I'm not an HBCU person, so I didn't get the HBCU hype. However, I do know that HBCUs were breeding grounds for those kind of environments. And that was the one thing I didn't feel like was missing from my Georgia State experience, was that. But in Atlanta right now, especially among the creatives, I am seeing more pockets of people doing that, getting together in these groups to exchange ideas. Usually there's some kind of art involved as the thing that's getting them together. But I'm seeing that more. And I think I think the pandemic had something to do with it. I think a lot of the mass shootings, the targeted shootings on Black men, like there's just so much that's been happening in the last decade that I think a lot of people that I'm kind of noticing in Atlanta are seeing that, like, these protests we do twice a year is just not enough. Like, we really got to think different, do something different. And a lot of those things start with those conversations, with getting together and exchanging ideas, because the unique position that creatives have is, like, we can say stuff people can't say, and nobody like we
That's
can't
true.
get. And so I understand that's why Picasso is one of my favorite artists. Unless you kind of go ahead.
I just want to just put this bug in your. What's your favorite Picasso period?
Ooh, I would say that there was my favorite painting by him is, I'm gonna mess up the
Guernica. Yeah.
Guernica.
The Spanish Civil War.
Yeah,
I've seen that in person.
Taj, you know your stuff, sir.
Yeah, I've seen it in person.
Really? So that piece was so powerful to me, as I'm a very family friendly brand. I'm very I appeal to all races and audiences equally. But I'm very much about my people. And I know that what I'm building, I'm trying to build a very big multi-million-dollar startup company so that I can go back and do work in my community. And a lot of that work is driven by this idea that with my gift, with my paintbrush, or whatever tool anybody else has, like, I can make powerful, bold statements that other people can't make that need to happen. And it helped me understand my responsibility. And I just feel that with everything going on, that like now that I've built a name for myself, I can do take some of those chances that Picasso took. He may not have ever really worked commercially like I've done. But to be able to speak very openly and in a very honest and raw way about what's wrong with your government, what's wrong with leadership, and what people are really, really going through. The opportunity to do that is pretty powerful. And so as people see the work that I make transition, especially as I move away from doing commercial work into finally making my own body of work, that artwork that I hope people are talking about 100 years from now, I'm really hoping to be able to work like Picasso did. And hopefully my company gets really big so I can't get any trouble and I can always, not anybody support it. Yeah,
Fingers crossed. That's so admirable, and I'm rooting for you. We all rooting for you. We need more of it. And just like you were saying, I'm still tight with my partners from Morehouse. A lot of people have similar experiences. The reason I mention that, Ashley, is because you're exactly right. Those spaces are incubators of dialogue. In fact, when I got there in the early 90s, it was more common than not on any given day to see a huge group of guys. I'm talking 25, 30 guys circled around two people just debating. This is 1992.
Wow.
And that had been going back to the 60s and the 50s. You know what I'm saying? And I've had I have some young cousins that are all in HBCUs right now, 4 or 5 of them. And I asked them, do y'all still do that? A lot of them say no.
Dang.
You know what I'm saying? And so what I'm trying to figure out is how do we convince the young people that pursuing intellectual exchange and trying to hone your intellect is something worthy?
You want to know what's crazy is I think that even like how we met just, within the music thing, the music industry is actually therapy for me. I love the business of music. I love the behind the scenes stuff. And I think what I love about the business of music is recognizing talent in young people and helping them see it in themselves and then monetize and build something with it like I did. And so I feel like those opportunities when I get to work with young talented people, and helping them build these brands, is I get their ear and they kind of listen, and I take advantage of those opportunities to tell them that, hey, like, you could rap or you could sing about anything, but you can also understand that the power of your voice. This is why I referenced Tupac in the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah.
Because Tupac was a master at making people understand what life was like from his vantage point and bringing people into what it was like to grow up in Cali, where he was from, and what it was like to be a Black man from that part of town, from his circumstance, his relationship with his family and his mom. And, I try to influence creatives, conversations for sure.
I love that.
So that's kind of how. Yeah.
So listen.
But you know what though? I ain't gonna hold you. I plant seeds, and even some artists that I've worked with, I can listen to like their music from maybe a few years ago, and even if you can just get it on one song, just something more conscious, something more about our people, about the community, and I think that's the way to do it, because they have the voice. That's who, I was just listening to somebody talk about NBA Youngboy and how Ray Daniels did a post about him and about how this guy puts no music out, but his fan base, these people are obsessed with him and they love him. So if you can get in the ear of somebody like that and say, you know, when you do decide to put out a project, how about at least just one of those songs you create something that inspires people to have those salons, to create that conversation and get in those groups, uh,
Yeah.
and really create that vibe. So I think that's one way to do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So listen, around here in Atlanta, tell us where some of your favorite pieces that you have done are so we can go see them ourselves.
Okay. Well, of course, you guys got to go to the King Center. I got a chance to make history.
Okay.
Being the first Black artist and the first Black female artist to ever paint on those walls.
What?
It's on the corner of Boulevard and Edgewood. Yeah. Yeah, man, that's kind of
I
crazy.
love that. I love that.
Yeah, so that's probably the most important piece that I've made. If you're up in Buckhead, they have a trail called Path 400. I have a pretty big mural under one of the highway bypasses. I think that was one of my favorite ones to make. It was the hardest one. It was very unsafe. I was in a scaffold very high, and I used to have to climb it, and it would be wobbly.
Ooh.
It was under a bypass, so there were like gutters down there. If it got too late, you'd see rats down there. It was just, it took everything out of me. But I took all that energy and put into the work. And if you really just take a moment to take in the piece, you can see the energy that went into making it. Also, I have one. Oh,
Can I ask you something? The name, what's the name of that piece? Do you name your pieces?
sometimes my commission pieces, that one was, I called that one Freedom.
Okay.
It was focused on, I put butterflies in there. So in that piece, in the King Center piece, and the one I did at Delta, those were commissioned by one of the nonprofits that I used to work for, working with trafficking survivors. And so in those pieces, I used flowers, I used butterflies, and I used a lot of symbolic objects to represent transformation, freedom, and growth. And so that piece was important to me because one of the women who inspired me to start ArtzyBella and become an artist full time, and then the lady who I used to work most of my shifts with overnight, I worked an overnight shift
Okay.
for like 3 years doing that work. And those people, they passed, they are still supporting me from above. And so I got a chance to dedicate that work to them. So those were important pieces. And then in College Park, I have one in downtown College Park. And that was important because that was the very first outdoor mural I ever made. And it was good.
Where is it located?
It's the street address that gets you the closest to it is 1883 Harvard Avenue in
Yeah.
Georgia. If you go to that address, right by Milk and Honey and Virgil's on Main Street. It's right off the side street called Harvard. And I just love that piece because I had just lost a friend a couple of years before I made it. And he was somebody that I used to talk to, like, I can't wait to paint and have my work in the city, and I could drive down the street and see my art. And he was from my neighborhood. He was one of those creatives that unfortunately the streets got the best of him before he was able to really do something with his craft. And so, you know, I did that in his honor. And it allowed me to put something beautiful on a really old building. And to me, that represented a lot of the people from the neighborhoods I grew up in, where normally you might discard those neighborhoods or not expect much from them, but there's so much beauty and power that comes from places like that. And I wanted to depict that in the work.
No, I mean, you know what I was sitting there thinking about. First of all, I love Virgil's.
Oh, yeah.
I love Milk and Honey's.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Yo, the what you call those? The egg rolls.
Oh, those egg rolls, those Gullah egg rolls.
Crazy.
Shout out to Virgil's. They're pretty cool people. You know, they just opened another location in Midtown. So they're
Virgil's Gullah Seafood, y'all. If y'all in College Park or Midtown, stop by there. I recommend the egg rolls. The drinks are great too.
For sure.
Um, but is your mural like right when you walk up the block? If Virgil's is
That's
on your
not
right,
mine. That's not mine. That's Yo-Yo Pharaoh's. So if you turn right on that street where that mural is, you'll see mine on the left.
got it. Okay, okay. Um, so are there any other murals that you want us to go check out?
Yes. So I just finished my latest two are at the Renaissance Marriott Gateway Airport in College Park.
Okay.
Two more College Park projects. So the crazy thing is that first mural in College Park, that mural took me almost 2 months to do because it was in the middle of like really bad weather. And I did the job for a very affordable price. And
Nice.
it was because, and I always want young people, entrepreneurs, doesn't matter the age, if you're young in entrepreneurship, to understand how important it is to invest in yourself and invest in your brand. And I will probably start paying myself out of my company maybe next year. But prior to that, any money I make, I put it back in the company. And every once in a while, I'll take on these jobs that don't pay much, but I understand the investment that it's making. So that was the first mural I did. And then the most recent ones I've done 3 years later are in College Park at the Marriott Hotel.
Okay.
I had my black self out there painting
All
murals.
right.
My work is out there. So it's just a testament to sometimes you got to have some grit, do some things that aren't always very, you know, not the most shiniest, coolest things, but know that it's going to pay off for sure. So they have an outdoor courtyard, and I did, it was about 300 square feet, 350 square feet. I did a mural out there. And then a month later, they asked me to come back to do another section of the wall. And then in a few weeks, I'll start another project at another Marriott hotel. But yeah, I'd love for you guys to check out those. Those probably been my favorite pieces. I tried to, the one that I did at the Renaissance was really inspired by the Art Deco and Art Nouveau
Yeah.
periods.
Like those movie posters and stuff.
What I wanted to focus on is simple vectorized art with a lot of flat color, maybe with two tones, just one highlight, one shadow. Because one of the things that I find that becomes the trendy art is hyperrealism. People love seeing that kind of stuff on Instagram. The artists who kind of work in those styles get a lot of attention. But I also know the power of color, and I know that especially when you're thinking about creating content, I've seen a lot of content go viral just because it feels like an immersive, colorful experience. And so through that piece, I wanted to show how taking simple shapes, making them very clean and polished, very vectorized, using maybe just two tones of color, but using the right colors and using the right colors together can still create a very powerful piece that you can almost get lost in. And I always appreciated that about that style of art in that time period. And so I just kind of wanted to celebrate that and do my own interpretation of it. So hopefully if you get to go see it, that's the
We,
experience you get to.
I'm riding by there. I'm gonna go check them all out. But I feel like I have a professor on the line with me, so I must ask, because since you brought it up, Art Deco, that has been a type of art that I really like to see. I see it a lot, Ashley. Like if somebody has like some old Roaring 20 posters up on their wall and stuff, they might be in that style. Can you tell me what is the genesis of Art Deco? I mean, what is the history of it?
Ooh, so I think that a lot of the Art Deco was they used a lot of highlights and shadows to really depict like metals and things that were metallic. I think that art was made at the height of the Industrial Revolution. And look, someone's saying, I love Art Deco. At the height of the Industrial Revolution. And so it was kind of a breakaway from the traditional classic painting of, you know, painting all these like prophets from the Bible and things like that. It was, to me, a very huge, break, almost what we call disruptive. It was a disruptive form of art that was inspired by architecture and design, which was really big during the Industrial Revolution because we were building a lot. And our country was growing into like these big cities that you see now, and architecture and the design behind the architecture was really important in that. And I think that a lot of Art Deco artists were inspired by that in the work that they made. And because a lot of that art was also duplicated in a lot of the architectural design that you would see in that we're developing, for sure.
Oh, go ahead on, girl.
You know.
You know,
Art history is my thing. I'm still mad at that teacher though, because he didn't like
how the teacher gonna play you out? You know what I'm saying? Teacher, you ain't about nothing.
But the style, you know, it was very everything was very beautiful and elegant. So there were a lot of patterns, repetitive patterns and shapes that I would guess was just a very new age interpretation of even from like the Rococo and Victorian era, where things were like that, very ornate, but it was very simplified and more minimal.
Now I'm familiar with the Victorian era, definitely with relative to literature. I was an English major in college.
Oh wow!
But Rococo, I'm not familiar with at all. What does that mean?
Rococo was kind of like came after, like right after, or on the brink of Victorian. Rococo is like when you see, if you watch a lot of movies, like period movies or TV shows that depict like the royals, where you see a lot of gold and these beautiful like kind of floral patterns, and everything is very colorful and pretty.
Okay.
That's a lot of that Rococo style, where everything was just kind of like way too much, over the top, very ornate, and just very beautiful. Very.
What does that mean? Is that French or something?
You know, I don't know. I forgot. I'm not.
Oh, okay.
But something about the word, I do know the meaning that describes that style of stuff being very ornate, very beautiful. But I don't remember exactly what it means.
Hey, you know, somewhere in this country, one of our cousins has a child named Rococo. They took the class. Camilla Rococo. You know, you see, I'm on the phone. Ashley, if you could give us 3 pieces of art that we have to see before we die, regardless of medium.
Wow. You've got to get to the Louvre. You've got to. Caravaggio is one of my favorite painters, because I think I like all the disruptive artists, because I think that Caravaggio was one artist that broke away from that classical style, because he was one of the first people to do a lot of extreme highlights and shadows in his work. And that was something that was like, you don't do back then. And so I'm attracted to those artists because I feel like I'm kind of the same way. I just love to do the opposite of what I don't like to do the trend. I don't like to do what's cool. I really like to be in my own lane, and I love artists who work. So I would say Caravaggio's pieces, he has quite a bit of work at the Louvre. I think that there's those baptistery doors in Rome, in the square near the Vatican. There are these doors that, so back in those days when they used to commission artists, a lot of times the artist commissioned to not just like make a piece of art, like go paint a mural on the side of a wall, but the art was part of the structure of the building. And so I just challenge people in your lifetime, if you can, you've got to get to Rome. You've got to get to Paris, but not to see the landmarks, but to just look at the buildings, because a lot of the buildings are the art. Artists were commissioned to design a lot of those things that you see on there. And then I think definitely got to get to South America. I think the art that inspires me the most, you would think I would say it's something Black, but I love Mexican art. I love the detail, the color, the richness of their work. When you look at a lot of that art, you feel like you're there. You feel like you're experiencing their culture. So I definitely say, I hear Mexico's not that safe lately. That's what everybody keeps telling me when I keep trying to plan trips down there.
Yeah.
But I definitely think if you can get to Mexico and see the work there, definitely in Rome and Paris, a lot of that art. And one of the things that I really want to do is, and that's, that's kind of sad because in art history, we learn so much about European art and we don't learn about our own stuff from our own country, from our
At all.
continent.
At
And
all.
I know what I want to do is really go immerse myself in the work of my people. And I'm really hoping that the body of work I start to build can pull a lot of influences from West Africa and South Africa. Because that's some art that even the history of their art, we don't even have a lot of information on it. At least not here in America, we don't.
Yeah. 2 books that you would recommend for us to read.
Ooh, let me grab. Is it close by?
It must be good if you're gonna grab it.
I was gonna grab it and show it to y'all. The first book is called The Artist's Way. It's called The Artist's Way. This book it's very big. It's like 5 books. It's 5. The author wrote 5 books, and so the complete Artist's Way is all 5 of those books in one. And what she does is she's teaching people how to use creativity as a spiritual practice, just like you would, like your religion, your Bible, because it walks you through, you do these things called morning pages. It just basically teaches you how to get up every day and live creatively, and how doing that can help tap into a part of your spirit that will just take you into every part of your life, your relationships, your work, your craft. And that's pretty powerful for me as an artist, especially because I am very passionate about mental health. And then the other book, one second, let me grab it.
All right. Smart girl.
So this
Smart
is
woman.
this is the book that I told you about. This, you see how big it's huge.
That is big.
This book is Atomic Habits.
Oh, you're like the 3rd person that mentioned that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Break it down. Tell us about it.
I think what I love about this is it helps take this big lofty goal of I need to change all this stuff, I need to fix all these things, and it makes it practical and something that we can easily digest and do. Because it teaches you how to just pay attention to like everything you're doing just in small ways, and showing how just even making those small minor changes consistently over a period of time create bigger change and bigger habit change, especially for people who maybe grew up with a lot of bad habits. And the crazy thing is that, I didn't realize until I became an entrepreneur, and because it's one thing, I'm an entrepreneur, I got a little hustle, to having a business where you have staff, where you have to think about finances and marketing and payroll and operations and all that. And really becoming a CEO, I realized how many horrible habits I have, because as CEO, I have to think about how do I not run this company into the ground, and how do I not screw it up. And it forced me to realize that I have a lot of things that probably started really small that really just became like normal life for me.
Yeah.
And I had to start breaking away at those things. And this book, I think this is one of the only books that really helped me do that, for sure. I think it's an approach to it.
Okay. I love that. Thank you for giving us those recommendations.
You're welcome.
Who are you listening to these days?
Ooh, I know everybody keeps talking, messing with my man Giveon, because his little
Girls of the I'm singing to you. Oh, that's not. Is that Giveon or that's somebody else?
No,
I'm just joking. That
that
was
was not.
Giveon. That was my Giveon impression.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No,
He definitely his
no, he dope.
so with me, the artists I listen to, I need to listen to an album straight through. I need it to feel like the 90s and the 80s. We could just turn on an album and just play it, let it play.
Yeah.
And so Giveon's album is really good. Chris Brown's album is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I also listen to I Love Lil Baby.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to Dave East.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar's last album was really good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get into this house music thing with Drake and Beyonce. It's a little new for me. I'm trying. It's growing on me a little bit. I love Ari Lennox. There's a young lady. There's a couple of indie artists that I really like. Baby Rose. She has this very like classic, just very unique voice.
Mm-hmm.
Who else am I listening to? I like Rod Wave. Rod Wave makes a lot of that's my kind of like clean up the house around the weekend kind of music. And who else? I think that's pretty much I would say the biggest artist. And then Jay Howell. Jay Howell is an artist that I've been listening to a lot lately. He's from I don't know if he's from Atlanta, but this guy's got a really amazing voice. I love.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What type of music does he sing?
It's R&B. It's
R&B.
good R&B. I'm really loving this. I feel like these artists are making some real good R&B right now. I was a little worried for a while because everything was just talking about sex. But these young people are really pulling something out of their souls, and really we're hearing it in the music. And I hope hip hop catches up to it.
Yes, please.
Members of hope. But yeah, I'm really excited about the direction. I'm glad that the mumble rap days are going away.
Yeah, I'm glad about that too. Yo, you like my girl Money Long?
Oh yes, I do. I'm so sick of that one song though. I ain't gonna hold you. I'm tired over and over and I'm over that. But there was another song that I just heard on that album. Oh, I can't look because I'm on the phone. But there's a new song that I just heard from her that I've had on repeat. I've got it in a playlist right now. Yeah, I love her voice.
Yeah, me too.
Who are you
listening
to? I know this is my interview, but I'm interested to know who you listening to.
Well, I'm listening to my girl Summer Walker.
Yeah.
I'm listening to, of course, Silk Sonic. I'm listening to
so good.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm listening to Mary's album, Good Morning Gorgeous, which is great. Ari, I like her. Daniel Caesar, of course. Love him. And a lot of old school, you know what I'm saying? My artist, Amadi, listening to him.
For sure.
And listening to a little Charisma with a K. That's another thing I'm listening to. Hey,
For sure.
And just different stuff. Yeah.
Nice. And you guys definitely have to check out Charisma. So I assist managing my little cousin who became a rapper. And I love her sound because it's very great. It reminds me of the old female hip hop from back in the 90s. Very raw, very uncut. She almost raps like these guys. It's very like female gangster rap, and I love it so much. So you guys make sure you check her out. Her Instagram is Charisma with a K, KHARISMA with a K.
And there you have it. Final word for the undiscovered ArtzyBella out there in this world. What would you say to the young people looking to find their way?
There's never going to be a right time. There's never going to be right circumstances. Nobody's going to understand what you're doing. Maybe one person might. But you got to do it anyway. You got to do it scared. Whether you feel embarrassed, you feel like maybe like you're doubting yourself, just do it anyway. Because you won't really know what you're capable of until you put something out there. And you got to be okay with looking crazy for a little while, and just trust that one day when everything kind of comes to fruition, you'll get to look back and people will finally get it, and that feeling is good. But just do it anyway, whether you got support or not. Be your own cheerleader. Be okay with being your own cheerleader for a while, and just jump. Gotta jump. You just
I love that. You know, I'm gonna turn that into a quote, right? I'm gonna turn that into a quote, and it's gonna be attributed to Atlanta's own,
hey.
the SWAT's own. Me and my baby had a Cadillac. Fifth wheel on the back, slow motion down Campbellton Road on Ashley Bella, y'all. Thank you, girlfriend. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I enjoyed this so much. I really appreciate you. And thank you for everything you're doing, your contributions to music, these artists that you're working with. Like, I just, I love to see old heads come in and bring that wisdom. And I can't wait to see what your artist does for sure.
Thank you so much, Ashley, and yours as well. The pleasure's been all mine. Ashley Bella, y'all.
All right. Have a good night, you guys.
Good night.
Good night.